So for this example, we're gonna say our gross profit is 30%. We're gonna use 4 simple statistics of your business. We're gonna look at gross profit, we're gonna look at overhead, we're gonna look at jobs per week, and we're gonna look at, if you wanna grow your roofing company this year, you need to watch this video. How do I know that? At this point, I get reached out to every single day, and I've never talked to a young roofer that knew his numbers. And every roofer I've ever talked to wants to grow his business, and they feel stuck. They feel like they don't know how. They feel conservative. They feel scared. They don't want to invest the money. They don't want to hire people. They don't want to buy office space. They don't want to do anything, but they do want to grow their business. And those two things don't mix. But I feel your pain. I have been there. I promise I've been there. It took me 3 years to hire an employee. So I understand it's scary. You want to grow your business. You're watching YouTube. You're working 18-hour days. You're trying so hard, but you're not doing the things you need to do to grow your business because you're nervous. And why wouldn't you be nervous? You've never done it before. You don't understand your numbers. You don't understand anything. But that's okay, and that's why I make these videos. I have been in business 7 years, and I am going to teach you how I view business growth in a super simple but statistical way. And this is the reason that my second business got to where my first business did in 6 years in 6 months. Because I finally understand these things, and I understand to grow a business and get where I'm gonna go, I have to invest in the business. But I don't invest blindly. I use mathematics, us dumb roofers using mathematics to grow our businesses. Every successful entrepreneur I've ever met constantly whips out their calculator, and I do the same thing. Like if we're talking business or we're talking anything, I pull out my calculator and I want to understand the math behind it. I want to put math and numbers behind the strategies we're speaking about because business is numbers. And I haven't always been this guy, but over time you turn into this guy, and this is who you need to be. And I'm making this video hopefully to give you the confidence to grow your business. I just had a call with a guy yesterday, and he was in a great position to grow his business. A lot of cash in the bank, a lot of jobs signed, scheduled out very far so he could pull some of those jobs up and increase his volume. And he literally just needs to make the decision. But because he doesn't know his numbers, he's all over the place and he's being far too conservative because he told me he does in fact want to grow his business. So that's kind of what sparked me to make this video. So let's dive into it. We're going to use 4 simple statistics of your business to map out and plan growth in a very simple way. I'm not going to use cash flow projections. I'm not going to use Excel sheets. I'm not going to use forecasting. I'm going to use bullshit back of the napkin math, and I promise you that's okay. Business is not that complicated. Sometimes we overcomplicate it. It's not that complicated. If a dumb roofer like me can figure it out, I promise you can figure it out too. So let's get into it. We're going to look at gross profit. We're going to look at overhead. We're going to look at jobs per week, and we're going to look at average ticket. These are the 4 metrics we're going to start with, and let's get into it. So for this example, we're going to say we have 12% overhead. If you don't know your overhead, you can figure this out. Honestly, 3 out of the 4 of these metrics you can figure out on your own. Even if your QuickBooks isn't dialed in and your bookkeeping isn't in place. Overhead, man, just add it up. I do this with guys on the phone all the time. Just add it up. What do you pay yourself? What do you pay in rent? What do you pay in insurance? What's your marketing budget? What do you pay? Add it up, get a dollar amount, divide it by your monthly revenue. You now have your overhead percentage. Jobs per week, super simple, doesn't need an explanation. Let's say 4 for this example. Average ticket. Let's say 17,000 for this example. If you don't know your average ticket, count out the jobs you do in a month, divide them by your monthly revenue, you now have your average ticket. Super important business metric that we should all know. Gross profit, if your accounting isn't in place, your bookkeeping is not in place, you're probably going to be guessing at gross profit. Even if you do line item cost estimates and add a profit margin to it, if you don't have a regular, consistent way to run P&L reports as your jobs close to confirm you estimated to make 30% and you actually did in fact make 30%, if you're not doing that, or you can't go into QuickBooks and look at your P&L statement and trust that all your costs of goods sold are correct so that the gross profit you're looking at is correct, well then you're just going to be guessing at gross profit. This isn't something I can walk you through on the phone to figure out your gross profit profit percentage. It takes tracking. It takes bookkeeping. So please put that stuff in place. I've made videos about gross profit in the past. I've made videos about QuickBooks in the past. If you need help, put a comment, DM me, I'll help you. But you need to know your gross profit percentage. It's super important for all sorts of things, and it's definitely important for what we're about to talk about. So for this example, we're gonna say our gross profit is 30%. Okay, so we have our 4 metrics that we're gonna work off of. Now we're gonna just put some average monthly statistics on the whiteboard based off of these 4 numbers, okay? So we have 4 jobs a week. Why did we choose per week and not month? Why do we choose per week and not month? We did this because this video is about planning for business growth. And what is business growth? Business growth is doing more volume in a week than we currently do. At a very basic level, that's what growing your business is. And it's easier for us to wrap our minds around squeezing more volume in a week, in a single week, rather than looking at a whole month. It's a longer period of time. But if we narrow down on one single week, it's very easy to map out the additional project managers we would need, the additional crews we would need, possibly additional office staff to handle what's going on in the field. So we're going to look at it 1 week at a time. So since we're looking at it 1 week at a time to make thinking about the volume increase easier, we obviously have to multiply. We obviously have to multiply the jobs per week to find out what that equals for a month to get our monthly statistics. There's 4.33 weeks in a month. But whenever I'm thinking about growth, I like to round down to be conservative about it. Also, some months out of the year only have 4 weeks. So I don't want to overshoot my mark. And then I have a 4-week month and I actually fall under what I had budgeted for. So we're going to say 4 times 4. 4 weeks in the month times 4 jobs per week equals 16. I may be a little clunky with this. I'm trying my best to switch the screens on my own. I got a calculator, I got a microphone, I got a whiteboard. I'm going to try my best, guys. 4 jobs per week times 4 weeks in a month equals 16 times our average ticket is 17,000 equals 272. So our monthly revenue is $272,000 a month. Decent little business, like $3.5 million a year. Decent little business, which actually that works out because the guy who called me yesterday was about $3.5 million. So that's perfect. Okay, now we want to find our gross profit. And this is in dollars, not percent. So we know we're making 30% gross profit. All I got to do is take 30% of my revenue, $81,600 in gross profit a month. Let's see what our overhead is. We have a 12% overhead. 12% of 272,000 is 32,640. Okay, beautiful. And that leaves us with a monthly net profit of, we made 81.6 on our 272. We have to pay out of that our overhead of 32,640. 48,960 for monthly net profit. This looks like a good, healthy business. If I want to find out what percent that is, I just divide my net profit by my monthly revenue. Equals 18%, which I already knew that because gross profit 30 minus 12 overhead is 18. You see that? Okay, one more piece we want to think about when we're thinking about growth, and I'm going to write that here, is our break-even point. Break even. The way we find our break-even point, it's very simple. We're going to take our monthly overhead, 32,640, because that's what break even is. It's, what do we have to hit in sales to cover our overhead to break even? So all we're going to do is take that overhead amount, 32,640, and we're going to divide it by our gross profit percentage. So divided by 0.3. So at 30% gross profit, as long as I'm hitting my 30% gross profit on all sales, I break even at $108,800. Now, obviously, I don't think I need to explain why this is an important number to know, but I'll take a minute to just explain how I can use this break-even point to kind of figure out where I'm at and figure out how comfortable I am with our situation. So this is a healthy business in this example. But when we're thinking about growth or we're thinking about how comfortable we are with where we're at, I like to play with the numbers a little bit. I like to plan for a rainy day. I mean, that's what being conservative and smart is. So like, let's say that I only hit 200,000 a month. I mean, right now I'm averaging 272, but let's say we have a down month. I mean, that's a pretty big drop. What's 72,000 divided by 272? 1, 2, 3 equals. That's a 25% reduction to the business. That's a major drop. So I like to play with the numbers. So if I do 200,000, I lost 25% of my sales one month, down month, it rained a lot, it got slow, whatever it is, and I subtract my break even from that, I still have $92,000 of sales after I cleared my overhead. Now, because I cleared my overhead, that means I'm going to net 30% of this $92,000. Because I no longer need to take money out of this $92,000 in sales to cover my overhead. It's all going to be gross profit and then go to the bottom line. So if I take 30% of that, I'm at $27,600. 27,000 divided by, to find out my profit percentage, divided by 200,000 equals 13.8%. So even if I lose 25% of my business and I only do 200 grand in a month, I'm still going to make 13.8%, which was 27,600. To lose 25% of my business but still clear 10% in net profit, I feel really good about that. I feel safe. Let's go one step further. Let's say the business gets cut in half, which is crazy. Crazy for the business to get cut in half. Very unrealistic, but it could happen. So I'm going to divide my monthly revenue by 2. That's going to leave me with 136,000. I'm still clearing my break even. So I'm still not in the red. Even if my business gets cut in half, I'm still not in the red. So let's subtract our break even to see what we'll be left with after we clear our overhead. We'll be left with 28,000 in gross profit after we clear our overhead. So if I take 30% of that, I'm going to make 8,400 bucks. Not great, but let me back up. So in this case, we went 136,000. Our net profit's going to drop to 8,400. 8,400 divided by our 136 equals 6.1%. So obviously we want to make more than 6.1% in our business, obviously. But for the business to get cut in half and me to still make 6.1%, I'm feeling really good about where we're at in this situation. I'm feeling really good about it. So this is kind of how we can play with the numbers once we understand the math of the business. And if these were my numbers, I would feel like I'm in a very comfortable spot to grow the business. Do you see that? Let me clear some space on the board. So like that, it's simple, man. This is back of the napkin math to like really plan out, see where I'm at, see how comfortable I am with where I'm at, and decide if I'm ready to grow or not. So in this case, I am definitely financially ready to grow the business. I am, but there's another piece to growing the business. And what would that be? Sales. So I would like to look where I'm at. I would think about where I'm at. How far am I scheduled out? Number one, that's the first question I would ask myself. How far am I scheduled out? I talked to this guy yesterday, and he told me he was scheduled out basically till the end of the year. But he's a $3 million roofer. So he has months of jobs that he can move up to do more volume in a week. So if that's the position you're in, you are safe. You don't even really have to think much further than that. I've never in my career been scheduled more than 5.5, 6 weeks out because I've always been committed to growing the business, and I'll do this little activity and I'll be like, all right, now I'm safe. I don't need to build on 6 weeks. I can just do more volume in the current weeks, and we're going to grow our business and grow our revenue. So because I've always been like that, I hear a guy tell me that he's scheduled out till the end of the year, and I'm like, what, dude? The end of the year? Why would you be scheduled out to the end of the year? Just grow your business. And the problem is he doesn't understand all of this stuff I'm going over with you, and it's scary to grow the business. So if you're in a spot where you're scheduled out 2 months or more, you know you're in a spot to grow your business. You know you can move some of those jobs up and grow. You run this little exercise and you grow the business. If you're not in a spot where you have a giant pipeline and maybe you're only scheduled out 3-4 weeks, well then for you, if you're going to grow your business, you need to work on sales. You need to work on marketing. You need to get more leads in the door. You need to raise your closing percentage, raise your booking rate. That's what's going to allow you to be in the position to do more volume in a week, because we don't want to be reckless with this. We don't want to rush to get to all these jobs and then we're just going to run out of work and be at zero. So like that's a fine line you have to walk, and that's a conversation you have to have with yourself. You have to look at your sales, look at your leads, look at your pipeline, see what's going on, and then make a decision. But if you're sitting pretty, scheduled out 2 months or more, well then run through this activity and grow your business, because you're ready to. I promise you're ready to. So we understand the math. We understand how to find out where we're at. Now let's play with the numbers a little bit. If we're doing 4 jobs, If we're doing 4 jobs a week now, let's just run the math for a double. Let's just run the math for a double and see what it takes. So we're going to erase this 4, and we're going to try to do 8 jobs in a week. Okay. Average ticket won't change. Gross profit and overhead will not change, although overhead may. We'll get to it. So now we have to ask ourselves, what do we have to do to the business? What add-ons do we need to be able to accomplish double the work, 8 jobs in 1 week? Well, at the very least, we're going to need a PM. Let's just say they're going to cost you $1,600 a week with your payroll burden. Make sure you understand your payroll expenses. Okay, let's say we're going to have to add a PM to supervise this extra crew. They do about 1 job a day. 1 more crew can do 4 jobs a week. We need a PM to supervise them. And let's say we're going to hire an additional admin in the office. I'm going to stay general with this. You have to look at your own business. You're always going to have to scale your office. And when you scale your office, you just have to look around, like, what is everybody doing now? Would someone be better suited for a shift of responsibilities? Could somebody move up? Should we fill in underneath, or should I hire above my current people? That's a conversation for a different day. But let's say we have to add another admin that's going to cost us $1,000 a week with the payroll expenses. Very important. Do I need to add any more overhead to accomplish this extra crew working every day? You have to ask yourself this. I really don't think so. I don't think so. And in this example, we're scheduled out very far, so we don't need to add on any salespeople. We have the sales. The jobs are in the pipeline. So I don't need any additional marketing. I don't need any additional salespeople. I just need additional people to manage the additional volume. So in this case, I'm adding $2,600 a week in overhead. And remember I said before, I calculate by 4 when I'm estimating growth and I'm estimating sales and profits. But when I'm estimating expenses, I want to calculate by 4.33, the actual true number of weeks in a month. Okay, so with these 2 moves, I'm adding $11,258 in overhead a month. Now, the first thing I'm going to do once I figured out what I'm going to raise my overhead by is I'm going to calculate the change to overhead with no additional increase in revenue. But keep in mind, anytime we're talking about adding a PM and adding an admin to do more jobs in a week, we're expecting the revenue to go up. But this video is all about making you comfortable with the growth in the business, and that's exactly what this is going to do for you. So watch. I'm going to pretend that we add these pieces, but we stay at the 4 jobs per week, not the 8, just to see where that's at. So my 32,000 in overhead now goes to 32,640, 43,898. Okay. My overhead was 12%, but I added these team members, so now my overhead's 43,898. If I divide that by our current revenue, not the grown revenue, my overhead bumps up from 12 to 16%. At 30% gross profit, 16% overhead, I'm still netting 14% down here. That's still not bad. We can't always prioritize net profit if we're trying to grow the business. We have to be ready to risk a little bit. You're never going to feel super safe to grow the business. We have to just make the decision and decide to grow it. But remember, we're trying to add 8 jobs a week. And I just did the math for these new team members that'll make us able to do 8 jobs a week, and pretending that we're still only doing 4 jobs a week and I'm still in good shape. Do you see that? That's very important to note because we get so scared to grow the business. But I just put it on paper that if I add the pieces that we need to add to be able to double our volume in a week, and we don't double our volume in a week, we fail and we stay the same size, I'm still making 14% on my revenue by adding the team members. And that should teach you another lesson that it's like, well, even if I added these team members and we didn't grow and we stayed the same size, what would we be doing? Well, we would be training people. We'd be bringing people on board. We'd be adding to the team. They'd be learning. Because inevitably one day, the revenue's going to go up and those people are going to be needed even if we fail at growing now. The whole video is trying to make you comfortable about business growth using math. Okay, so I just ran through the numbers as if we're going to add to our overhead and not grow the business, but we are growing the business. So let me organize this a little bit. Maybe Ernesto can, well, you can watch this. So I'm going to change the numbers. We're trying to double the business right now, double weekly volume. So my new overhead is 43,898. We're doing 8 jobs in a week at $17,000. 8 times 4 weeks in a month equals times 17,000. I probably could have just times it by 2, but whatever. Okay, now $544,000 in monthly revenue. I'm still making 30%. That's not going to change. Growing the business is not going to change. We just keep an eye on our gross profit. And obviously our net profit's going to change. Let's see where we're at. We're making $163,000 on our 544. We have to pay our 43,898. Now we're making $119,000 in net profit a month. That's a big number. Let's see what that is percentage-wise. Let's see what our net profit just changed to. Holy shit, 21.9%. Good job, buddy. That's amazing. And then let's see, because my overhead's still 16 from before. 43,898 divided by 8%. Healthy business. Oh, sorry, wrong spot. Okay. Do you see that? We added a PM and an admin to be able to do 8 jobs in a week instead of 4. What does it take to do 8 jobs in a week? Probably just one more crew. So I have a full-time PM, a full-time supervisor to hang out with that crew, and I have an additional admin to help out with the office work. Sometimes to grow the business, you're going to need more salespeople. You're going to need a higher marketing spend. You're going to need all those things. But remember, for this example, we're talking about the guy that is scheduled out 2 months or 3 months or even 4 months, which is insane. So the pipeline is there just to move those jobs up. And it seems like the sales are there too, because we got scheduled out 4 months in the first place. So I don't know that I need to increase marketing spend. I don't know if I need to increase marketing spend, bring in more sales guys, do any of that. The jobs are in the pipeline. Let's just move them up. So it's very realistic to only need a PM and an admin to be able to handle that extra crew working full time in your company. You have to think about your business. What would it actually take to get an extra crew working every day? But like, that's realistic. So I'm not in my office anymore. I'm actually in Tampa Bay. We just did a sit down with Robin from Trust Roofing. That guy is a fucking killer. We have a lot of similarities, so stay tuned for that podcast. But I'm just gonna wrap up this video because I got cut off. In the example, we were speaking if we had a pipeline and we had sold jobs, signed contracts to pull forward and do more volume in our current week than we currently do. But if you want to run through this exercise and sales are a problem, you want to grow your business, but you don't have the signed contracts to grow your business, then you run through these same exercise. You run through the increase in marketing spend, see what it would do to your overhead, see what it would do to your break even, and then decide to invest in the marketing so you can grow leads. But when you're doing that, just quick side note, focus on booking rate and closing percentage so you're not throwing your marketing dollars in the trash. But you run through the same exercise to become financially conservative and comfortable with your decision to grow, and you make the decision and you do it. Stay tuned for Robin. You're going to see how he did exactly that.